Hello, my dear friend. Have you ever met someone who enters a room quietly, speaks only a few words, and yet everyone naturally turns their attention toward them? They do not seek admiration. They do not try to impress anyone. They are not the loudest voice in the room, nor are they necessarily the wealthiest or the most physically attractive. Yet there's something about their presence that makes others feel calm, inspired, and deeply at ease. What is this invisible quality? Paramahansa Yogananda called it magnetism, a subtle spiritual force that radiates from within. According to his teachings, true magnetism is not a personality trait reserved for a fortunate few, nor is it a technique for gaining popularity or influence. It is the natural expression of the divine energy already present within every human soul. When the mind becomes peaceful, the heart becomes pure, and our life force is directed wisely, that inner divinity begins to shine through us. Others sense it, even if they cannot explain why. In books such as Autobiography of a Yogi, The Law of Success, How to Have Courage, Calmness and Confidence, Scientific Healing Affirmations, Man's Eternal Quest, and the Divine Romance, Yogananda repeatedly reminds us that every thought, every emotion, and every action either strengthens or weakens our magnetic power. He teaches that we are living batteries of divine energy, and when that energy is conserved, purified, and consciously connected to God through meditation and right living, it naturally attracts health, peace, wisdom, meaningful relationships, and opportunities that are aligned with our highest good. In today's world, many people mistake magnetism for charisma, social status, physical appearance, or persuasive speech. But Yogananda offers a far deeper understanding. He teaches that the greatest magnetism belongs to those whose lives are rooted in truth, self-discipline, compassion, and unwavering communion with the divine. In this video, we will gently explore 6 profound principles inspired by Paramahansa Yogananda's teachings that can help awaken the magnetic power already resting within you. As we journey together, I invite you to listen not only with your mind, but with your heart. These teachings are not merely ideas to understand, they are practices to live. And perhaps, by the end of this journey, you will discover that the extraordinary presence you have admired in others has always existed quietly within you, waiting to be awakened. My dear friend, before we learn how to increase our magnetism, we must first understand what Paramahansa Yogananda truly meant by the word magnetism. Today, this word is often associated with physical attractiveness, charm, charisma, or the ability to influence others. Many people assume that a magnetic personality is something we are simply born with, an inborn gift that only a fortunate few possess. But Yogananda offered a completely different perspective. He taught that true magnetism is not something you inherit, it is something you cultivate. It is the natural radiance of the divine life force flowing freely through your body, mind, and soul. It is not an artificial quality that can be created by learning clever communication techniques or by trying to impress others. Instead, it is the result of living in harmony with spiritual laws. Imagine, for a moment, a powerful magnet. When it is clean and properly aligned, it effortlessly attracts iron. It does not struggle. It does not force. It simply expresses its nature. Likewise, Yogananda explained that every human being is a living magnet. Deep within each of us exists an infinite reservoir of divine energy, because we are expressions of the infinite spirit. However, just as a magnet can become covered with rust and lose its strength, our spiritual magnetism can become weakened by negative habits, restless thoughts, fear, selfishness, and emotional imbalance. The good news is that the magnet itself is never destroyed. It only becomes covered. This is one of the most hopeful teachings of Yogananda. You do not need to become someone else. You do not need to acquire some mystical power from outside yourself. You simply need to remove the inner obstacles that prevent your natural divine energy from shining. Yogananda often reminded his students that the soul is already perfect. Every spiritual practice is not about creating perfection, but uncovering it. Just as clouds may temporarily hide the sun without diminishing its brilliance, anxiety, anger, attachment, and ignorance hide the radiant power of the soul without ever destroying it. This understanding changes everything. Instead of asking, "How can I become magnetic?" perhaps we should ask, "What is blocking the magnetism that already exists within me?" According to Yogananda, the answer lies in understanding life force, or what ancient yogic traditions call prana. Prana is the subtle energy that animates every living being. It is more than physical vitality. It is the intelligent cosmic energy flowing through the nervous system, sustaining every heartbeat, every breath, every thought, and every movement. Although modern science measures electrical activity within the body, yogic philosophy goes a step further by teaching that behind all biological processes exists this subtle life current. Yogananda frequently described the human body as a living electrical system. The brain acts like a control center, while the spine serves as the main channel through which divine energy flows. When this current moves harmoniously through the body, we experience clarity, enthusiasm, courage, creativity, and inner joy. Our face appears more radiant. Our eyes become brighter. Our voice gains warmth and conviction. Even our posture begins to reflect confidence and calmness. People may not consciously recognize what has changed, but they feel it. Have you ever noticed how some people leave you feeling peaceful after only a short conversation? Others may say all the right words, yet you leave feeling strangely exhausted or uncomfortable. Yogananda would say that beyond words, people are constantly exchanging subtle vibrations. We communicate not only through speech, but through the energy we carry. This is why two individuals with equal intelligence, similar education, and comparable abilities can have vastly different effects on those around them. One naturally inspires trust. The other creates uncertainty. One brings calm into difficult situations. The other spreads anxiety without intending to. The difference is not always external. It is energetic. Yogananda taught that our thoughts are living forces. Every thought generates a vibration, and those vibrations shape the magnetic field surrounding us. Loving thoughts strengthen our energy. Fearful thoughts weaken it. Peace harmonizes it. Anger disturbs it. Think of your mind as a beautiful lake. When the water is still, it reflects the moon perfectly. But when the surface is constantly disturbed by wind and waves, the reflection becomes distorted. Similarly, when our minds are constantly filled with worry, resentment, jealousy, impatience, or endless distractions, our inner energy becomes scattered. We lose the quiet strength that naturally attracts goodness into our lives. This is why Yogananda placed such great emphasis on mental discipline. He knew that the quality of our thoughts determines the quality of our magnetism. But thoughts are only one part of the equation. Our emotions also play a profound role. Consider what happens physically when someone experiences fear. Their breathing becomes shallow. Their muscles tighten. Their heartbeat accelerates. Their judgment becomes clouded. Now consider someone who feels deep love or gratitude. Their breathing slows. Their face relaxes. Their voice softens. Their entire nervous system begins functioning more harmoniously. Yogananda observed these changes not merely as emotional experiences, but as movements of life force. Every emotional state either conserves energy or wastes it. Fear drains energy. Anger burns energy. Hatred poisons energy. Greed scatters energy. But peace gathers energy. Compassion expands it. Faith strengthens it. joy multiplies it. This understanding invites us to become careful guardians of our inner world. Instead of blaming external circumstances for how we feel, Yogananda encourages us to recognize that every moment offers a choice. We can nourish the qualities that increase our magnetism or indulge the habits that weaken it. One of the most beautiful aspects of Yogananda's teachings is that he never separated spirituality from daily life. Increasing magnetism was not about escaping the world or living in isolation. It was about transforming ordinary moments into opportunities for spiritual growth. When you respond patiently instead of reacting with anger, your magnetism grows. When you choose honesty instead of deception, your magnetism grows. When you replace criticism with understanding, your magnetism grows. When you forgive instead of holding resentment, your magnetism grows. Every noble choice strengthens the invisible current flowing through your life. Yogananda also emphasized the importance of physical vitality. He encouraged proper nutrition, moderate exercise, fresh air, sufficient rest, and conscious breathing because the body serves as the instrument through which divine energy expresses itself. Caring for the body is therefore not an act of vanity, but an act of spiritual responsibility. Yet he always reminded his students that physical health alone is not enough. A healthy body without inner peace still lacks true magnetism. Likewise, intellectual brilliance without kindness often fails to inspire. Real magnetism arises when body, mind, heart, and soul function together in harmony. Perhaps one of Yogananda's greatest demonstrations of spiritual magnetism was his own life. Thousands of people from different cultures, religions, and backgrounds were deeply moved simply by being in his presence. Many disciples wrote that they felt an overwhelming sense of peace, unconditional love, and divine joy without Yogananda saying very much at all. His influence did not come from forceful persuasion. It came from the inner realization of God that naturally radiated through every aspect of his being. This reminds us that genuine magnetism cannot be manufactured. It cannot be faked. It cannot be purchased. It cannot be borrowed. It is the spontaneous fragrance of a life lived in communion with the divine. So, as we begin this journey together, I invite you to reflect on a simple question. Where's your energy flowing each day? Is it scattered among endless worries, distractions, comparisons, and emotional reactions? Or is it being gathered through peace, self-discipline, gratitude, and conscious living? Remember, my friend, the purpose of these teachings is not to become more attractive in the eyes of the world. The deeper purpose is to awaken the divine presence already within you. As that presence shines more brightly, your relationships naturally improve, your confidence deepens, your intuition becomes clearer, and your life begins to reflect a quiet strength that no external circumstance can take away. This is the magnetism Paramahansa Yogananda spoke of. Not the power to control others, but the power to become so inwardly aligned with the divine that your very presence becomes a source of peace, courage, hope, and inspiration for everyone you meet. Now that we have explored what Paramahansa Yogananda meant by spiritual magnetism, let us turn our attention to one of the most powerful sources of that magnetism, our thoughts. Yogananda often reminded his students that every thought is a living force. Thoughts are not empty events that appear and disappear without consequence. They are subtle currents of energy that shape our character, influence our emotions, guide our actions, and gradually determine the direction of our lives. In many of his lectures and writings, he emphasized that we become what we consistently think about. A single passing thought may have little influence, but a thought repeated day after day becomes a habit shapes character, and character eventually shapes destiny. This teaching is both empowering and deeply humbling. It means that the invisible conversations we have with ourselves are often more important than the conversations we have with anyone else. Every morning, before we speak to another person, our own mind begins speaking to us. Sometimes it says, "You are capable." Sometimes it whispers, "You are not enough." Sometimes it fills us with gratitude. Sometimes it fills us with fear. Most people never question these inner voices. They simply accept them as reality. But Yogananda encouraged us to become observers of the mind rather than slaves to it. He taught that we are not our thoughts. We are the conscious soul witnessing those thoughts. The moment we realize this, we regain the power to choose which thoughts deserve our attention. Imagine standing beside a flowing river. Leaves, branches, and countless objects float past. You observe them, but you do not jump into the river to chase every object that passes. Thoughts are much the same. They arise from memories, habits, emotions, and impressions gathered over many years. Not every thought deserves your belief. Not every thought deserves your energy. One of the greatest mistakes we make is identifying ourselves with every passing idea that enters the mind. Yogananda gently reminds us that a fearful thought is not proof that we are fearful. An angry thought is not proof that we are an angry person. A doubtful thought is not proof that we lack faith. These thoughts are simply visitors. Whether they remain or leave depends upon the hospitality we offer them. If we repeatedly entertain fear, fear becomes stronger. If we repeatedly entertain resentment, resentment deepens. If we repeatedly entertain hope, hope grows. If we repeatedly entertain love, love gradually transforms our entire personality. This is why Yogananda placed such importance on mental discipline. He understood that the mind is like a fertile garden. A garden does not choose what grows within it. Whatever seeds are planted and consistently watered will eventually flourish. If we neglect the garden, weeds appear naturally. Likewise, if we neglect the mind, negative habits begin to dominate without conscious effort. Many people wish for a peaceful life while allowing anxious thoughts to occupy their minds from morning until night. They desire loving relationships while constantly rehearsing criticism and judgment. They long for confidence while repeatedly telling themselves that they are weak or incapable. Yogananda would lovingly ask us to examine this contradiction. How can we expect to harvest peace if we continually sow worry? How can we expect confidence if we constantly feed self-doubt? The law is simple. Whatever receives your sustained attention becomes stronger. This principle is beautifully illustrated in nature. If a farmer waters one section of a field every day while ignoring another, only the nourished plants will thrive. The mind functions in the same way. Every thought we nourish with attention gains strength. Every thought we refuse to feed gradually loses its influence. For this reason, Yogananda encouraged seekers to become vigilant guardians of their mental environment. Just as we would not knowingly allow poison into our food, we should be equally careful about the thoughts we allow to settle in our consciousness. This does not mean pretending that difficulties do not exist. Yogananda was never an advocate of denying reality. Instead, he taught us to face life's challenges with courage, wisdom, and faith rather than panic and despair. Consider two people facing the same obstacle. The first continually repeats, "Everything is against me. Nothing will work. I always fail." The second quietly affirms, "This challenge has come to strengthen me. Divine wisdom is guiding me. I will learn what I need to learn." Externally, their circumstances may be identical. Internally, they are living in entirely different worlds. Over time, those different mental worlds begin producing different lives. One becomes increasingly discouraged. The other becomes increasingly resilient. This is not because life treats them differently, but because their inner magnetism attracts different responses, different opportunities, and different ways of perceiving reality. One of Yogananda's most practical methods for transforming thought was the use of affirmations. Unlike ordinary positive thinking, his affirmations were deeply spiritual. He believed that words spoken with concentration, conviction, feeling, and repeated in meditation gradually impress themselves upon the subconscious mind. When repeated with faith, they awaken dormant spiritual power. He often encouraged affirmations such as, "I am a child of infinite spirit. Divine strength flows through every cell of my body. Peace fills my mind, joy fills my heart, and wisdom guides every step I take." These are not merely comforting sentences. They're reminders of our true nature. According to Yogananda, every soul is created in the image of the divine. Therefore, confidence is not something we manufacture. It is something we remember. Peace is not something we borrow from the world. It is something we uncover within ourselves. Another important teaching found throughout Yogananda's works is the influence of company on our thinking. Thoughts are contagious. Spend enough time among people who constantly complain, criticize, and dwell on fear, and you may notice those same patterns quietly entering your own mind. On the other hand, when you spend time with people who are calm, grateful, and spiritually minded, your own consciousness naturally begins to rise. For this reason, Yogananda encouraged seekers to choose uplifting friendships, read inspiring books, listen to noble ideas, and regularly seek the company of spiritually awakened individuals whenever possible. Even when physical companionship is unavailable, the words of great saints and sages can become silent companions that elevate our thinking. He also advised limiting unnecessary mental stimulation. Although Yogananda lived long before smartphones and social media, his guidance is remarkably relevant today. Our minds are constantly bombarded with news, entertainment, advertisements, and endless streams of information. Much of it encourages comparison, fear, or dissatisfaction. If we are not careful, we begin living more in reaction to external influences than in communion with our own higher wisdom. A quiet mind is a powerful mind. A distracted mind is a weakened mind. This is one reason meditation occupies such a central place in Yogananda's teachings. Meditation allows the waves of thought to gradually settle. As the surface of the mind becomes still, we begin to experience moments of profound inner silence. In that silence, we discover that beneath all our changing thoughts exists an unchanging awareness, calm, joyful, and deeply peaceful. From that inner stillness, new thoughts begin to arise naturally. They are clearer, wiser, and more compassionate because they are inspired by intuition rather than habit. Yogananda often explained that intuition is the soul's direct perception of truth. It becomes accessible only when the restless mind is quiet enough to receive it. Therefore, guarding our thoughts is not merely about eliminating negativity. It is about creating the inner space where divine guidance can be heard. As you continue your own spiritual journey, I invite you to practice a simple exercise throughout the day. Whenever you notice a recurring negative thought, do not condemn yourself. Instead, pause gently and ask, is this thought strengthening my life force or weakening it? Is this thought bringing me closer to peace or further away from it? Would I consciously choose to plant this seed in the garden of my mind? If the answer is no, release it with kindness. Then replace it with a thought rooted in truth, faith, gratitude, or love. Over time, this simple practice becomes transformative. The mind grows calmer. The heart becomes lighter. Confidence quietly replaces fear. Compassion replaces judgment. Hope replaces discouragement. And as your inner world changes, your outer presence changes as well. People may not know why they enjoy being around you. They may not understand why your words carry greater weight or why your presence brings comfort during difficult times, but they will feel it. Because every uplifting thought you cultivate becomes part of your spiritual magnetism. Remember, my dear friend, the mind is not merely a place where thoughts happen. It is the workshop in which your future is continuously being created. Guard it with wisdom. Fill it with noble ideas. Nourish it through meditation, prayer, uplifting study, and self-reflection. In doing so, you are not only transforming your thinking, you are awakening the divine magnetic force that Paramahansa Yogananda taught resides within every soul. My dear friend, as we continue our journey into the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, we now arrive at one of the most profound and practical principles he shared with his students, the conservation of life force. If our thoughts determine the direction of our magnetism, then our life force, or prana, determines its strength. Yogananda often explained that every human being possesses an immense reservoir of divine energy. Yet most people live as though they are constantly running on an empty battery. They wake up feeling tired, become mentally exhausted before the day is over, react emotionally to small inconveniences, and wonder why they lack enthusiasm, inspiration, or inner peace. According to Yogananda, the problem is not that we lack energy. The real problem is that we continually waste it. Imagine filling a bucket with clean water while there are several holes in the bottom. No matter how much water you pour in, the bucket never becomes full because it is constantly leaking. In the same way, we often seek more energy through sleep, food, coffee, entertainment, or temporary pleasures, while ignoring the countless ways in which we unconsciously drain the precious life force already flowing within us. Yogananda invited us to ask a different question. Instead of asking, how can I get more energy? He encouraged us to ask, where am I losing the energy I already have? This single shift in perspective can transform the way we live. One of the greatest causes of energy loss, according to Yogananda, is restlessness. Look carefully at the modern world. Everywhere we turn, we are encouraged to move faster, speak faster, consume more information, and constantly keep ourselves occupied. Silence has become uncomfortable for many people. Moments of stillness are quickly filled with notifications, conversations, videos, or endless scrolling. The mind rarely has an opportunity to rest. The nervous system is continually overstimulated. Without realizing it, we become addicted to motion. Yogananda observed that this constant restlessness scatters our life force in every direction. It is much like sunlight spread across a wide field. Although bright, it lacks concentrated power. But when sunlight passes through a magnifying glass, it becomes focused enough to ignite fire. The same principle applies to human energy. A scattered mind produces scattered results. A concentrated mind possesses extraordinary power. This is why Yogananda admired calmness so deeply. He often taught that the truly powerful person is not the one who is constantly busy, but the one who can remain inwardly peaceful while fulfilling every responsibility with attention and grace. Think about the people who have left the deepest impression on history: great saints, wise teachers, compassionate leaders, and enlightened souls. Many of them were not known for rushing through life or speaking endlessly. Instead, they possessed a quiet presence. Their movements were deliberate. Their words were thoughtful. Their actions carried weight because their energy was gathered rather than dispersed. Yogananda encouraged his students to cultivate this same quality. He advised speaking only when necessary, listening more deeply than we speak, and allowing moments of silence to become natural companions instead of something to fear. This does not mean becoming withdrawn or avoiding conversation. Rather, it means learning the difference between meaningful expression and unnecessary expenditure of energy. Have you ever noticed how exhausting excessive talking can be? After hours of gossip, argument, or meaningless conversation, the mind often feels depleted. Yet after spending an hour in peaceful reflection or sincere dialogue, my dear friend, we have now journeyed together through the beautiful teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda on spiritual magnetism. We have learned that our thoughts shape our inner vibration, that conserving life force strengthens our presence, that divine love gives magnetism its highest purpose, and that meditation reconnects us with the infinite source of all power. But a sincere seeker may now ask an important question. How do I live these teachings once I leave my meditation cushion? After all, spiritual wisdom is not meant to remain inside books or inspiring conversations. It is meant to become part of our everyday lives. Yogananda often reminded his disciples that the true measure of spiritual progress is not how peaceful we feel while meditating, but how peacefully we live when faced with the ordinary challenges of daily life. It is easy to remain calm when sitting alone in silence. The real test begins when someone disagrees with us, when plans suddenly change, when we experience disappointment, when people misunderstand our intentions, when life becomes busy. It is during these ordinary moments that spiritual magnetism is either strengthened or weakened. Imagine a musician who practices beautifully at home but forgets everything when stepping onto the stage. Practice has little value unless it can be expressed in real situations. Meditation prepares the mind. Daily life becomes the stage upon which those inner qualities are revealed. This is why Yogananda encouraged his students to make spirituality practical. He did not ask them to withdraw permanently from the world. He encouraged them to transform the world by transforming themselves. Every morning, before the activities of the day begin, Yogananda advised creating a few sacred moments of stillness. Before reaching for your phone, before checking messages, before allowing the demands of the world to enter your mind, sit quietly, offer gratitude, remember God's presence. Even a few sincere minutes can influence the entire day. Think of the captain of a ship. Before beginning a long journey, the captain carefully sets the direction of the vessel. If the course is correct at the beginning, only small adjustments are needed along the way. The mind functions similarly. The first thoughts of the morning often influence the emotional tone of the entire day. If the day begins with gratitude, prayer, and calmness, challenges are usually met with greater wisdom. If the day begins with anxiety, haste, or distraction, that restlessness often continues throughout the day. Yogananda frequently emphasized the importance of beginning every morning by remembering our true identity. Not merely our profession, not our possessions, not our social roles, but our eternal nature as children of the divine. When we carry this awareness into our daily activities, our confidence no longer depends entirely upon external success. We perform our work sincerely, yet our inner peace remains rooted in something much deeper. One of the simplest yet most transformative practices Yogananda recommended was to perform every task with full attention. Whether washing dishes, writing an email, speaking with a colleague, preparing a meal, walking through nature, give yourself completely to the present moment. Modern life often encourages divided attention. We eat while looking at screens. We listen while planning our reply. We work while worrying about tomorrow. As a result, the mind becomes fragmented. Life force becomes scattered. But wholehearted attention gathers our energy. It transforms ordinary actions into acts of meditation. This quality of presence is deeply magnetic. People naturally feel respected when they receive our complete attention. They feel that, in that moment, nothing is more important than the conversation they are having with us. Yogananda understood that presence is one of the purest expressions of love. Another daily practice he encouraged was watchfulness over speech. Words possess tremendous creative power. Once spoken, they cannot be withdrawn. Before speaking, Yogananda advised silently asking ourselves, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Many conflicts disappear when we pause before reacting. A calm response often accomplishes far more than an impulsive argument. This does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. It means approaching them with clarity rather than anger. When our words arise from inner peace instead of emotional agitation, they naturally carry greater influence. People may not always agree with us, but they are far more likely to listen. Yogananda also spoke often about cheerfulness. Not superficial excitement, not forced positivity, but a quiet joy rooted in faith. He believed that genuine cheerfulness is itself a form of spiritual service. Have you ever noticed how one genuinely joyful person can uplift an entire room? Without preaching, without drawing attention, their peaceful smile quietly changes the atmosphere. Yogananda often smiled, even during challenging times, because his joy came from his relationship with God rather than from changing circumstances. He encouraged his students to cultivate the same inner happiness. This does not mean pretending that difficulties do not exist. It means remembering that every challenge is temporary, while the soul is eternal. This perspective transforms suffering. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? We begin asking, what is this experience teaching me? Every difficulty becomes an opportunity for greater patience. Every disappointment becomes an opportunity for deeper faith. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to strengthen our character. This shift in attitude itself increases spiritual magnetism. People naturally trust those who remain hopeful without denying reality. Another cornerstone of Yogananda's daily teaching was self-examination. Each evening, before sleeping, he encouraged quietly reviewing the events of the day. Not with guilt, not with harsh self-criticism. As we come to the end of our journey together, let us pause for a quiet moment and reflect upon everything we have explored. Today, we did not simply learn a technique for becoming more influential or attractive. We explored something far deeper. We explored one of Paramahansa Yogananda's most profound spiritual teachings, the realization that true magnetism is not something we acquire from the outside, but something we awaken from within. Throughout this journey, we discovered that every thought we nurture shapes our inner vibration. Every emotion we cultivate either strengthens or weakens our life force. Every act of self-discipline gathers our scattered energy. Every sincere meditation reconnects us with the infinite source. And every expression of unconditional love allows the divine to shine more clearly through our lives.